right. Well, good morning, everyone. So happy to be here. Again, my name's Kim. We're going to have an hour of delightful yin yoga and stretching and all the things. So let's start in a child's pose. We're going to work some inner thighs today. But we're going to start in child's pose. Find your most comfortable version of that child's pose today. So if you want knees wide, I'm going to suggest to get into your inner thighs. But if today's spine feels a little more enjoyable, you can bring your knees together. Then lengthen your arms out and rest your elbows so that the elbows, the fingertips don't have to reach and do a lot of work, but rest everything down. And then get a little bit of movement out. So you might find that you want to move the neck side to side. Not something we always do in child's pose, but really nice to allow yourself to rock the neck left and right a few times. Or maybe you put your cheek down or the side of your face and then move to the other side after a breath, or not forgetting about that wonderful little neck of ours. And if you need to move the hips as well before you get really comfortable, again, side to side. Sometimes I even bounce them just a little bit off of the heels very gently to see what that feels like, to awaken the feet a little bit too. And then allow yourself to just settle in. So this is our opening shape as well as our opening meditation. So allow yourself, once you get that movement, to be still and just breathe. 5 easy inhales and exhales to really try and bring yourself into the moment. And what I mean by that is it's so easy to land here physically. Well, maybe not always so easy physically, but we land here and then we have to start to bring the mental and emotional bodies to the mat as well. So if you feel really distracted today, you had a lot going on before coming into the space, give yourself permission to just release that. Say, I'm here. This is my hour of yin, my hour of deep stretch, meditation, all the things. And the emotional body too. We never really know sometimes what we're going to peel away in the layers during the practice. So check in there as well. And noticing too, what's different now than moments ago when you arrived on the mat. So explore what that is on all levels too, physically, mentally, emotionally. What's different? And paying attention to the breath now versus moments ago, it was just there. Okay, now you're paying attention to how it feels, how it moves throughout the body. I know that most times when I use the word body in this practice, I am referring to all bodies, not just physical. So if you're starting to feel more rooted in this shape, or are you starting to feel a little more like I need to wiggle, I'm getting uncomfortable, so part of yin is sitting with that discomfort. Being comfortable with a little bit of discomfort. So before we set our intentions before our practice, take at least 5 more breaths. Good morning. And just feel. Feel connected, feel grounded, feel anything. And now there's a little more spaciousness everywhere in our bodies, I hope by now. So let's set our intention. What brought you here today? Perhaps there's something you seek. Remember, intentions aren't goals for tomorrow, later today. They're for now. They come from the heart. Usually, what do you desire? Maybe go a little deeper today. But know that if you came just to relax, that is a great intention. So set your intention. Take a breath in and a breath out. Shares with everyone here in this space. And we're going to stay for 3 more breaths. So count them out, feel them, be in the moment. Then take your time. So really slow to always come out of these shapes too, because once you get kind of cooking in these poses, there's a lot that's happening. So take your time. We're gonna press up together, and I want to give you options. So sometimes I'll give you one pose, and then other times I want to give you a couple because every body is different. So if you'd like to press up and bring your knees together, or maybe bring your knees together and keep your chest low. We are going to meet on our belly next, so that's another option I find nice after a long child's pose, the hip flexor. So if you feel like slithering forward onto the belly, you can meet there. And maybe you make a little pillow with your hands, wiggle the hips if you end up there. But take your time, at least 5 breaths in between to reset your physical body, but also the mental body. And then pay attention to any sensations. What's still there? Maybe we have to explore what's lingering. Good. And now that you're all on your belly, take another breath. And we're going to prop ourselves up on the next exhale, just onto the elbows, so we can work a little bit into our spine while we're here. So just bring yourself up onto those elbows on your forearms. When your elbows are under your shoulders, this is going to be a little more intense. So if you want a little less, scoot your elbows forward towards the top of your mat so they're away from your shoulders. Option to bring your feet closer together or wider apart, just really more about your low back. You'll feel maybe some slight differences as you move your feet, and then try and release your glutes. So if your glutes want to squeeze, try and just let them release. And then your option to draw your chin towards your chest. And you can always move the neck a little side to side here too before you settle in, because again, the neck, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes the neck, I feel like we give it more love when it's not feeling good, like you sleep on it funny, but really just allowing yourself to roll it side to side, any pose that you can, any moment of your day to move the neck. In a lot of active yoga, you're never really encouraged, unless you're holding a head below heart pose, that your head is always lifted, the crown of the head is always the extension. But in yin, we can fall into what I call like a little shoulder basket, so you can be heavy into that shoulders and drop down and let yourself sink into it so you can get relaxed. Plus it feels good to move the neck and challenge the direction a bit of the cervical spine, so long as you don't feel any compression anywhere that doesn't belong. So now notice how you feel in this shape as we move on from one to the next. Are you relaxed? Is this one challenging you a little differently because we're moving a little bit more into the spine itself, out of the hips? I'm going to ask you that. Every shape, how are you feeling? So it's worth exploring. So even if you just did this or any shape yesterday or last week, whenever you were on the mat last, it always feels different day to day, moment to moment, depending on what you've done leading up to this moment. Your body is going to respond to that. So enjoy a little bit of quiet for about 10 breaths. Just feel that breath in and out, very easy, very free. Just a few more breaths. Where does your attention go in moments of silence? Remember, that's where your energy flows to as well. So if you wandered away for a little bit, just come back. Take 2 more breaths, and on your second exhale, lower down to your belly. All the way down, chest. Maybe make a pillow with your hands and release. And be with how you feel now. So couple of release options for this one. First and foremost, just as you are, you can press your pubic bone. So you almost add a little rounding in that low back. That'll help release right now. And then if you want to wiggle the hips, that might be nice to try second. And if you're still feeling any strong sensation after both of those options, another one you could try to release is bend your right knee and bring it up towards your hip. So like a frog leg, like a half frog leg on your belly. That one's a nice release too. And so you'd count out a few breaths on the right and then you do the left. And there's always time to do multiple. So if you feel like trying a couple, again, plenty of time. Good. And if you're bending your knee and you have one leg, make sure you switch for at least 3 more breaths. And then in your own time, after the next breath or two, and move at your own pace, we are going to press up onto all fours. We'll take a few cat-cows just to move the spine a little, because that always feels good when you make your way up to seated. Promise no standing poses today. So find your way into all fours and take a few cat-cows, drop the belly and look up, or close your eyes and just lift the head. And then the exhale pulls the belly button in very gently as you round. And so keep that going. Inhale, drops belly, exhale, rounds. So you get a few rounds on your own, just linking your own breath with movement. And we're going to be taking the hips and the spine into extension and flexion today. So this is a nice way to just open up before we find our next shape. So give yourself 2 more. You don't have to put any muscular effort into it. So if you feel your core is pulling you in, you can always let that go. And then after you get that last one, go ahead and find a seat. We're going to move into a single leg stretch. So we're going to bring both of our legs out wide. So it's going to be a short hold because we're going to revisit this pose, but let's start with the right leg. So pull your left heel into your groin. And then your right leg should be out just far enough that you have to turn your torso just slightly towards that leg. So there's a little twist. And then you can walk your hands down to fold over your right leg. Some of you may get your nose close to your knee. That's not the goal, but you might find that's a destination one day you arrive at. But watch what happens with your left hip. So if it starts to lift up, please soften that and try and keep your hips down because there's some really sensitive nerves on the back side of the body. You probably heard about your sciatic nerve, right? One of many, but that one is pretty strong. If you feel any burning, pinching, or pulling, please sit back a little bit. Just going to fold over this right leg for about 10 more breaths. It's just a short hold, lengthening a bit into the hamstring. Can you feel it a little bit in your inner thighs? We're going to take that deeper. And if you come into this practice and you find that, say, forward folds or back bends, one or the other, are really challenging, know that you get a good mix of both today. So your spine will leave here feeling a lot happier, getting a mix of both. So enjoy, even in moments where you feel extra challenged, enjoy the journey. It's not easy, but you're on it. So it's worth acknowledging. Please take 3 more breaths. Come on up in your own time, just nice and slow, and bring your torso back to neutral first so you get that slight little twist out of the spine. Take your left leg out wide, feel that release of the knee, feel that a little bit, and then pull your right heel in towards your center. Turn the body towards that left leg, that little twist, and then walk your hands down as far as you can go. If it's not very far, just bow your chin to your chest. Honor the differences between your sides. It's not going to feel the same on your left leg as your right. can soften your shoulders a little bit too. Again, watch those thoughts. Where are we running off to in moments of quiet? 3 more breaths. Slowly start to come on up, take your time. And then reset the spine and come back to neutral. Let's extend that right leg out for a moment, release the knee. Just stay here for 2-3 breaths, just let that go. And then when you're ready, we're gonna bring the soles of the feet together so we can really melt the spine forward again. So bring the soles of the feet together into a butterfly shape. And I'm going to guide you into a little pressure point here in a moment, but when you bring your soles of the feet together with yin, you never really want to go too far out. So that diamond shape is a little too far for this particular pose. So about 15 inches of space between your thighs, inner thighs, and your heels. And relax your knees before you fold. So a lot of times we have this like we're holding them up energy for whatever reason. So try and relax them down. Hands can wrap around the feet, and then you can start to fold from there. Or maybe it's just a little hinge chin to chest. So just a little release. Some of you may go further and get a full rounding. Again, watch those hips. They're not folding or lifting forward. If you don't have a blanket, because I don't know if anyone brought in props, you can always just use the edge of your mat, roll it over a little bit if you feel like you're moving forward with your hips and it's uncomfortable. Now that pressure point, if you want to add a little layer for this little stretch here, if you take your thumbs and you push them in the center, the meaty part of your foot, so it's the sole of your foot, right? Because they're probably resting near there anywhere. If you gently push and put a little pressure in the sole of the foot there in the center, your thumb can activate our kidney line. So added benefit for what we're doing today with this inner thigh work. So I want you to visualize for a minute your pinky toe. So this line runs from your pinky toe, the outer edge, to the sole of your foot where you're likely pressing right now, connects to your big toe and runs the inner thigh. So all the way up the inner thigh, and then it passes through tailbone and spine. So think about now these folds we're doing and the extensions that we'll do. So why bring up that kidney line? Why we can activate by pressing into the sole of our foot is, I mentioned when we were kind of gathering into our space this morning, a lot of us can use that work not only to open up inner thighs, because we tend to be more closed hip poses just in general, like without knowing, with all this like sitting we might do, standing, it's a lot of closed hips. But the kidneys are responsible for, they have a job in terms of detoxifying in its own way. So working into getting rid of some stagnant energy through the kidneys and just in general. So it's a really strong line of energy if you want to melt a little bit more and see if you can go deeper into that inner thigh sensation when you fold, or you can press a little bit more on the sole of the foot. Should feel good. And so I'd invite you to consider what you want to detox out of the system today. Whether it has anything to do with your kidneys, could be something emotional. So keep that top of mind as you fold a little bit more. Keep that as we practice. About 10 more breaths. Gravity pull you just a little bit more. Rest into what you're feeling. Take one more breath, just fall into that. One more breath. And then once you push all that air out, start to come on up. Maybe you feel one vertebrae at a time, just kind of lifting up, coming back, neutral spine. You can bring your hands behind you, beside the hips, but slightly behind you. And one of my favorite ways to reset is just to bring the knees together, but open up the feet a little bit wider than the hips. Just knock them in, might feel nice. But if you feel like something else would call to you, you can take it. But this is a nice inner thigh reset. And then, of course, just a little press into the hands so you can open up the chest and the spine as it re-lengthens. I want to give the knees a little break. So after a few breaths, we're going to do one more forward fold, and then we'll go backwards a little bit. Again, playing with both flexion and extension today. So take another breath or two. We're just going to extend the legs just to give the knees a rest into a forward fold, easy. So we can work into our hamstrings. But know that as you come into this, right, soften the feet. You can open up feet as wide as the hips, or they can be together, your choice. Just a little bit of different sensation. That I like to bend a lot into my knees because I still get plenty of hamstring stretch, but that you're not having to overdo it. And then depending how far your spine lets you melt chest towards the thighs, chin towards the chest, any way your fold feels good. If that's too much, just stay upright and flex your feet and don't even include the spine if that's all too much. So you can do that as well. Otherwise, a little fold into should feel nice. Let's love on those hamstrings a little bit. Got 3 of them on the back side of each leg. We had a big job supporting our glutes as a stabilizer muscle, so we're going to work the layers underneath them. But initially, the first 5 to 10 breaths are actually more of a muscular stretch. So that's your active part of the stretching. And then once you get past that minute, it becomes yin, it becomes passive. And if you visualize a rubber band, right? So if you pull on a rubber band and you let go, it's going to go back to its original shape. That's the active stretching. But with yin, when we go passive, surrender, 3 minutes, you guys know it's a longer hold, is we get past the muscle then at that point, and it becomes what they call plastic region, where you can't go back to the same shape. It's just you've changed it, and that's good because the tissues respond to that stress. So wherever you are in this pose and every pose, again, just continue to ask yourself how you feel. If you need anything more from this, do you need to soften, or can you go a little deeper? What do you need today? Stay for about 10 more breaths. Be with what you feel. Your next inhale, whatever that is, we're going to slowly come on out. Take your time. And maybe your hands go really far behind you for this release, just so you can counter, because again, our next shape will be going more of add a little bit of a back bend. So We'll have that release. Maybe some wide windshield wipers, feet wide, and you can go to the left, to the right. If you need to lay down and reset your spine, that's okay too. So give yourself some time to move a little bit. That activation will help release. Hopefully, there's nothing painful about that pose, but turns off those little pain receptors and gets things back to neutral in the body. So, movement is good, a little bit of muscular effort is good. All right, so you guys take a little more time. I'm going to set up our next shape. So there's a couple ways you can get into it. So those, I like to just set it up where you're sitting on your heels, so knees would be together. I'm going to show you the half variation and the full. So sitting on your heels, but we're going to sit in between the heels. So if you can't go beyond what I'm going to show you, this is a great place to just sit and feel, where you can sit on the heels. Again, I don't know if anybody has a blanket or if you want to put it on your heels, but if you can go a little further, open up your feet, try sitting in between your feet. Now, if this is too much, take one leg out. Just lean to one side and let one leg come out. And then I'll tell you when to switch it. Because I know this is a lot for the knees, and I find a lot of resistance in even teaching it, because I know it's really challenging, but we're going to try it today. So really just one heel next to the hip is good. And you can do both if you have more space. Now, you're either going to be upright, or if you'd like to add a very subtle back bend, you can lean back, right? Because some of you might be able to lay all the way down one day, maybe. So this is just a nice little counter to our last shape. Again, not folding at this point. So even if you just bring your hands slightly behind you and lean, or you're upright. So either way, you're getting to release the spine. So don't worry, timer's on. I'll tell you when to switch your leg if you have one leg out. And just pay attention really quick when you set this one up before you really melt into it, is just how we're leaning into one side, especially if you have one leg out. Make sure everything's just kind of equally distributed in your weight, so your hips aren't carrying more weight on one side. And if your hands are behind you or on your thighs, wherever they are, make sure you relax your shoulders and then try and melt into it, because I know this one is challenging, especially if you're leaning back. You get a little extra, you're going to feel that on the tops of the thighs a little bit more, so you get a little quad stretch, a little bit for your hip flexor depending on how far down you are, and then the knees. So the good news is, if we had a peak pose in yin, this would be it. So it can only be downhill and relaxing from here. But this is our most challenging right here. Good. Now, if you have one leg out, 2 more breaths, not yet, 2 more breaths, and you'll switch. And the best way to do it is going to be just to lean to one side, help that leg out, and then pull the other one in. So whenever you're ready, if you have one leg out, lean to one side, that extended leg side, and then pull the bent knee side out and switch. And this is where you'll spend your last part of the journey. So already halfway through, went fast. So feel what you feel. If this pose is not a neat opener, it's no such thing, but it really can help increase our range of motion over time if we held poses like this more often. In this moment where you feel likely pretty challenged physically, is just be grateful for what you have, this body at all that moves, even when it restricts you or there's a little bit of compression maybe that doesn't feel right. And you, of course, adjust accordingly, but that we're thankful that we have these bodies at all to move, rather than saying the opposite. I know sometimes we can say that, like, oh, my something blank doesn't feel so good today, but really just excited about what does feel good in the body. So everyone, 2 more breaths just as you are. And especially if you're in full expression. So the one thing I want you to avoid, everyone, is to come into a tabletop. So don't do that. It's just extra weight on the knees, unless you feel stuck, of course. But try and lean to one side if you're in full expression and let one leg come out. and then the other. But if you do feel stuck, tabletop is okay, but quickly you would get off those knees. And then let them come out. We'll say yogi's choice on this one. What do you need to release that? Extend the legs for sure. Usually that's enough. Wiggling the toes, circling the ankles, get some movement back. And then when you're ready, we can lay down. How's that sound? So before we go into our next shape, I would invite you to take up a lot of space, like a starfish in the sand, just arms and legs wide. Just lay there for a few breaths. Or like you were going to do a snow angel, if you like that visual better. Just take up some space and stay here for 5 breaths. And just feel the spine just melt back. Great moment to check in. Where are you on this meditative journey? Have you rid yourself of any toxins, anything you might have been holding on to? Maybe not yet. Still have time. Let's give those outer hips a little love too, so we can't just work our inner thighs today. So gently, we're going to take a nice reclined pigeon, figure 4. So let's do it the right side first. Allow the legs to come in so that your left foot is on the ground, knee to the sky. Take your right ankle, hook it on top of your left thigh, figure 4 or reclined pigeon. So you can stay here, right hand on your right knee. You can encourage your knee away from you, which means you'd be gently pushing it towards the back side of your mat. That's a good place to stay. If you want more, interlace around your left shin or under your knee crease and pull in gently. So if you pull in around and your hands are around that shin bone, please relax your shoulders. No lifting of the head, just a nice figure 4 stretch. And whether you were just working out or you had a nice easy morning, this outer hip stretch, I think pretty much everyone loves. The nice benefit of doing it on your back instead of if you know your pigeon stretch in this practice is it takes out the hip flexor, which does need some love too, but it can be very challenging, as well as the knees when you're doing it in full expression. So you get to melt your spine, get just the attention on that outer hip. And now, how are you feeling? Check in. Relax your feet. No need to point them, flex them, hold them up in the air. Just let them go. Relax. I wanted to come back a moment about that kidney energy because I think it's really beautiful to acknowledge if you haven't already heard this before, but kidney is really the energy line is really associated with our inner wisdom. And I feel, not just because it's a new season, that it's technically fall, is just I feel there's a really beautiful energy in the air right now. I felt this past week that there's a lot of growth going on in the best way possible. We all know it's been challenging this year. So there's a lot of growth, which has been really beautiful to see. And I think that growth comes from trusting that wisdom. And I think working kidney line is a great way to complement that energy that's in the air. So whether you feel it or not, it's kind of lingering, it's happening. So if you're looking to make change or new choices, new decisions in your own life, right? This is your wisdom you can activate in this beautiful practice, even though you're not pressing on to that point on your foot anymore. We've done the work. You can do it. It's on your own, of course, too, but you've already activated that energy. So what will you do with it now? The other side of that, though, is fear. The imbalance of that line is fear. So the fear makes sense, right? Holds us back from making new choices. Let's not let that fear manifest in our bodies in stress. That's usually what it shows up first. So let's get rid of that. Let's balance ourselves out in these final few poses. Please stay for 5 more breaths. Just feel. On your next exhale, if you have the foot, go ahead and let it, or the shin rather, or the knee, go ahead and let it go. And pause, those of you that are just now letting your foot come down to the earth, pause there. Feel that release of holding in and then unhook the ankle. So exit the pose slowly the way you came into it. Feel the difference in the release as you go step by step. And you can bring the knees together, feet wide. You can bring the legs up in the air. That's one of my favorite ones, just letting them dangle, because you can feel the reverse of the blood flow. And it gets a little tingly. It feels cool, but it will give you more blood to your heart, your brain. Especially those of you that worked out right already today, you feel your feet carried a lot of weight for you. So it's nice to bring the legs up once in a while. Just change that blood flow, release the energy that they hold. Take a breath or two to consider both sides are not done yet. So there's a little imbalance. What do you feel before we do the left side? And whenever you're ready, with your right foot on the ground, knee to the sky, hook that left ankle on top of the thigh, deciding if you're going to stay there. Put your left hand on your knee and encourage your knee forward if you're going to stay there. If you're going to interlace around your right shin bone or under the knee crease, pulling in just a little bit. Wherever you feel good, relax your feet, please, and then soften your shoulders. Let everything melt so your head is not lifted, it's on the ground. Immediately once you get into this shape, as you consider how the sides feel different, right? What are those differences? How you feel? Is there any work that we can explore? Just melt into it. Bring your intention back to your heart and just be in this moment. It's our last bit of hip work. So where we carry the most stagnant energy is those hips. When they get tight, our spine suffers, so do our knees. So let's work out any last bit of stuck energy or sensation, perhaps. final moments here just to explore and feel, be a little softer. And sometimes the softness isn't in your body, it's in the mind. Soften those thoughts. Two more breaths before you release. And remember, it's going to be really slow. We're going to go reverse the way we came into it. So after that second exhale, if you have a grip, slowly let your right foot float down first. See what that feels like. And then unhook the ankle after a breath or two and take what you need to release. You could try something different on this side. You could do the same thing. Legs up, legs long. You choose. Appreciating the balance now, both sides complete. Last bit of hip work, you did it. Now we can work a little bit more into that spine before we rest. So we're going to start with a lateral side stretch first. So bring your feet as wide as the mat, if they're not already as wide as the mat. Take your left leg, left foot, left ankle across to meet the right. So you hook your left ankle on top of your right. Both hips are down. Now, if you have a little more space, you can scooch the feet a little more to the right. But before you decide that, let's bring the arms up as well. Inhale, up and over. And then on the exhale, curve the body, upper body to the right as well. So this is going to be a shorter hold, but consider you're like a little half moon shape. So your arms are up and over, but resting on the ground, you can grab opposite elbows or opposite wrists. And again, try and relax your shoulders, and please make sure both hips are down. So if you move your feet more to the right, if your left hip lifts, you need to scooch back a little bit. Good. It's a little half moon shape, side lateral stretch. Getting the outer, it's a very subtle outer IT band stretch, as well as opening up the rib cage where the obliques live, working a little deeper there. Soften your shoulders. And now as the practice becomes a little softer, right, it's really important to remind yourself, whether I say it or not, just to come back and breathe if you feel wandering a bit, and just be here. Be really grateful for the moment and thank yourself, for just coming today, being here for you. Because truly, when we fill our cup up, we are allowing ourselves to give to others the best of us rather than what's left of us after a long day or week. Just 5 more breaths. Let's release the way we came in. So consider the upper body will start to come back first. Maybe lengthen the spine, come back to neutral. Bring your arms to the side, maybe they're in a T shape, doesn't really matter. And then open the legs nice and wide again. So unhook the left foot. And because this one's a little more gentle, we don't have to spend as much time resetting, but know that you can always stay longer if you want to just rest on your back, legs out. But if you're ready, pick up the right leg and meet the left ankle. Make sure the hip is down before you bring your arms up and start to move the upper body to match the legs. Moving up and to the left a little bit. Can you grab opposite wrists or elbows? Maybe the hands are just dangling at the sides, but make sure the shoulders are relaxed. Both hips are down. Feel this on the right side. Soften. Three more breaths. Take your time, start to come on out. Move the upper body back first and just unhook the ankle last, taking up space. And one of my favorite poses, practice would be complete living on the spine without a little twist. We're gonna roll onto the right side body. So I want you to stack your legs. So right leg on bottom, left leg on top. Take your right arm, make a little pillow with it. Or your bicep will be your pillow. So your arm is up and overhead, your cheek, your head is resting on your right arm. So from here, take your left leg. It's going to come in front. So bend the knee. So less rests on the ground. So it's going to come in front of you, knee in line with the hip or somewhere near there. And then bend your back leg. So that's your right leg. Take your left hand, catch your right foot. Rest your foot down if you can. So they call it cattail, cat pulling its tail. It's a little twist, and a fun name, little twist, as well as a quad stretch. Now, if your head is comfortable on your arm, stay. If you want more, your head rolls off the arm behind you. So you land looking up at the sky or your left shoulder. And then your right arm is still up and over where you started. So holding onto that foot, right foot. Left knee is in front of you on the ground. The higher it is to the chest, the more intense the stretch. Now, we're just gonna hold this foot for about 10 breaths and then we're gonna let go so we can just enjoy the twist. So as much as you want out of that quad stretch, if you are holding onto your foot, that part's also optional. But since you all have it and it looks pretty comfortable, stay. So count out 2 breaths for you. On your second exhale, let go of your foot and just let it be a spinal twist. So at that point, if your head is still on your bicep, maybe roll back and intensify your twist if you want to. You can change any arm positions, or if they're comfortable, left hand can rest on the thigh, can go behind you. Just assess where your shoulders feel more comfortable. So you might land that left arm on the ground behind you in a full, we call it twisted root spinal twist. So just depending how much you want from it, you can bring your knee higher or lower to the chest. Lower is less intense. So a wonderful thing about practicing yin in the morning is it really sets your body up for the whole day. Prepares you for any bit of movement because you've been holding these poses. So any activity that you do can feel much better in the body for the rest of the day. And even though it feels restful at times, it's a lot of work. And it gives you plenty of energy to take on the day. And I find it also has a really nice softness for the day. More patient, more kind with ourselves and others. Just happens from being on the mat, from releasing energy and inviting in new. And the spinal twist is just going to reset our posture as well for the day, keep our spine nice and neutral, we hope, for the rest of the day. Stay for 10 more breaths, just as you are. Got one more breath. And let this release be very gentle. So take your time. You might land in fetal position on that right side. So that's an option, or you can roll to the back. So take what you need before we do the next side. Just a few breaths. Again, twists are more subtle. Also, energetically, they're really powerful because you're twisting out a lot of toxins in the organs in the belly that hold a lot of our emotions. So I like to keep the energy going. So if you need more time, take it. If you're ready for left side, let's roll onto left side. Stack the legs. Left arm extends up and over. Rest your head, your cheek on the bicep area. Take your right knee, bend it to come in front of you. So the knee will rest on the ground. Knee might be in line with the hip, sort of at a 90 degree if it feels right. Bend your left knee. Right hand catches left foot. Stay here. Please relax your foot down to the ground though, so you're not holding it up. Good. And then if you want more, roll your head off of that arm, looking up to the sky or maybe towards your right shoulder. We'll intensify this a little bit more if you'd like. Good. Remember, it's just 10 breaths to hold the foot. So get as much out of it as you like. If you want to pull a little bit more, but let it be gentle because it's yin, right? It's a little activation. You can stretch that quad more. That quad deserves love. It got love in that pose earlier that we felt really challenged in, but supports a lot of our body too. So it's a strong one, but needs a good stretch. So pull as much as you like for a few more breaths. On your next exhale, just let go of that foot, adding any extra depth to your twist that you want. If you haven't rolled your head off yet and you want to roll off the bicep, open up the arms more, just make sure they're comfortable for this final part of the journey. As you're in this pose for final moments, this pose it's going to get us into rest. So if there's anything lingering in your space that you have to kind of acknowledge and just let go, it's a really great time to do so. Otherwise, you might feel really light and peaceful, and you're just appreciating the abdominal massage of the twist, with the spine reset, wherever you are. It's perfect. We're here for 10 more breaths. Be still and enjoy. A lot of us, this is our only quiet time to ourselves all day, so really enjoy it. Two more breaths and you release as slow as you like. So count out your 2 breaths, keep yourself in the moment, and we'll all roll to the back. Unless you prefer a detour in a fetal position, otherwise, we're going to set up for rest, our most important pose. As we lie down, taking up space, you can extend legs and arms, maybe hand on the heart or the belly today, just to really connect with yourself. The easiest pose to get into, usually, just lie down. If your spine is feeling still sensitive, you can take conscious rest where your feet are as wide as the mat, knees to the sky, and then you knock them in. That might help support your spine a little bit more. But once you arrive, please close your eyes and tell yourself nothing else to do, just be here and breathe, be still. Take in the joy of the practice and all that you did and all the energy from everyone else just floating around. Bring your intention into your heart, melt into this moment. Shavasana. you slowly start to come back into the moment, just allow the sound of my voice to bring you back. You don't have to move just yet. Just land the bodies back into the mental, emotional bodies, that is, into the physical body, into the moment. Take a nice deep breath. Maybe move the neck after that nice deep breath. Start to move side to side. Wiggle toes and fingers. Big good morning stretch. The arms and the legs are forward and reaching in opposite directions if it calls to you. Be kind to your body. Move slowly. Maybe the knees come into the chest as you prepare to drop them to the right side. That's our energetic body. So you can stay there for one breath and let that, if you are dropping your knees to the right, let that be in that fetal position that represents change. That's growth that we've had over the last hour. Never leave the mat the way that you arrived on it. So it's a beautiful thing. Take your time. We'll press up to a seat. There's no rush. We'll find our hands at the heart. When you arrive, just take another breath with the hands at the heart, just honoring yourself. Always a nice breath for you first, because you showed up and did the work, and the journey was all your own, and universe showed you what you were meant to see today, and maybe there's more to be discovered later today. So we're open to receive, and this energy lives in your heart. So this joy, anytime you need it, you feel stressed, tired, whatever it is, it's always in your heart, and you can share it and you can keep it for yourself. We take one more breath for each other, just acknowledging as we bow our heads in gratitude that we came here with different intention but common purpose. So we thank each other for showing up. Go in peace, my friends. Be well. Namaste.